Who is Gavin Newsom? Now, I've seen a lot of papers ask this question over the last week and a half, and I've had to ask it myself. In the calexit movement, we've actually had a lot of intense conversations. Jason Wright, who's the chairman of the board, was pointing out a month ago that Gavin Newsom may not be the guy that we think that he is. And he said, watch. And I was watching, and then some other things happened. So just to go over this recently. So there were the Palisades fire. Trump criticized California for management. Trump said he wasn't sure he wanted to help Californians. And then Trump flew into California and didn't coordinate with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom still went out to meet him, which politically makes you weak. So the guy tried to exclude you, and you still showed up at his tarmac when he flew here, even though he didn't coordinate with you. So that looks like you're bending the knee to him. Secondly, Newsom's been talking pretty nice about Trump last couple of weeks because he wants the federal money. And people say, hey, you got to get the federal money. Okay. But then there's some new things. So right after Donald Trump said that he's ordering all federal workers back to work, I think 5 days a week, Newsom issued an order saying he's ordering all state workers in California back to work. Now, here's the interesting thing. Newsom could do that, sure. But Newsom did it in the exact same way as Donald Trump, which is very un-Californian. So Newsom literally just put it out there to the news that he's going to order all the state workers back. He didn't actually tell any of the state workers or any of the state bureaucracy. He just put it out there. People in the California government who are high-ranking officials were literally sending emails going, I learned about it on TV just like you, and I don't know what's going on. I'll get a hold of you in 4 or 5 days when we know more. That's chaos. That is not the proper functioning of government, and that's exactly how Trump runs things. So Trump just dictates on high, doesn't care. For example, let's look at the Elon Musk Doge coin with Trump. This is how they do things. Now, maybe they are finding hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of savings. Okay. But I'll point out the meeting where Elon Musk was at the staff council meeting with Donald Trump, where he had to go, okay, look, we accidentally canceled Ebola protection just for a little bit. It's a mistake. We're going to make mistakes, okay? I think you should be in prison for that. I think when you're in government and you're shooting from the hip and making such flippant moves that you accidentally cancel Ebola protection. It was Ebola, the most deadliest disease on earth, which can spread quickly and kill all humans. I think during Obama's time, they tried to prevent an Ebola outbreak, and the nurses at the medical center who were working on it contracted Ebola. That's how bad Ebola is. That's how hard it is. That at the top medical facility under the Obama administration, they still couldn't prevent workers at that research center from contracting it. So Elon Musk and Trump accidentally canceled Ebola protection, but don't worry, because they made sure to bring it back. What was lost in the middle of that? What kind of rational person says, let's cancel Ebola protection? Let's cancel protection for the deadliest virus on earth that, if it was released, would liquidate humans to goo and is so easily spread, it's considered the most contagious virus out there. So, and you're the guy who accidentally canceled protections? How many people died from that? And then you're at a government meeting and your attitude is, whoops, I accidentally canceled Ebola. I've worked in government 25 years. That is not how you talk about a massive mistake. People could be dead. And your attitude was, hey, we're going to make mistakes. That's not the way a serious bureaucrat operates that. They would have been very serious, and they would have been wondering if they got people dead. He was kind of giggling it off. So don't believe me. You can watch the video where he did that. So that's the kind of way that Trump runs things. I'm not going to coordinate. I'm not going to do research. We'll make a couple mistakes. Oh, were they mistakes like, I don't know, canceling all funding for all nonprofits in America, canceling people who run air traffic control centers so airplanes run into each other and head-on collisions, canceling Ebola protection so that people could die from the deadliest disease out there? Whoops. That's just, there's no room for debate. If you know anything about government, that is absolutely the way that you do not operate things. It's the way they do things in a failed Latin American democracy, and it's not. So Trump's been doing things that way, and Californians are used to it. Now enter into the fray Newsom, who's doing it in the Trumpian style. So don't inform your people, don't coordinate, let them find out from the news as you dictate on high, and just deal with the chaos as it rolls downhill. That's not proper functioning of government. He's never behaved this way before in his entire term as governor. And now he is, right after he had to beg Trump for money for Palisades, now he's acting like Trump with the ordering back of workers to work, which he can do. But the manner in which he did it is almost identical to the way Trump does things in the chaotic, destructive form that he does. The other thing that happened recently was that right after Newsom did that, I think maybe 2 days later, he did a podcast with Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's considered a bigot by many, if not the majority of Californians. Newsom decided to do a podcast with him and pose for a picture with him like they were buddies. So that alone should raise flags. Additionally, in that interview with Charlie Kirk, he said that he agreed with him on banning transgender people in women's sports. So regardless of your take on that, in California, we're very pro-transgender. For the governor to then come out and take the conservative opinion on it in opposition to the majority of Californians and the majority of California culture as it goes back to the 1970s is highly controversial. And you're going to see a lot of news articles out going, literally, I saw one today, and it just said, who's Gavin Newsom? So why are you bowing to Trump? Why are you acting like him with dictates on high that caused government chaos? And why are you acting like you also are against transgender people in women's sports? And why are you doing all this stuff now? I'd point out that our last episode, we talked about I think it was a GV Wire article that was talking about how Newsom might be bending the knee to Donald Trump. In that article, or another one at the same time in that episode we were talking about, the quotes in there, it said that what might be happening is that Newsom's trying to be president. He had a good track record. He was in line to be the next Democratic frontrunner for presidency. The Palisades fire happened. He went on TV, and the first thing out of his mouth was, "That's a local issue, don't blame me." That disgusted Californians. So imagine people are dead, homeless, bodies are charred, and you turn to your neighbor and you say, "Can you help me?" And the first thing out of their mouth is, "Not my problem." How would you feel about that? Especially when we consider that every other governor traveled to emergency sites right away instead of saying, "Not my fault." A lot of people saw that and I'm not saying this is what it was, but a lot of Californians saw Governor Newsom doing that and going, "You're placing being president of America and not having the issues tied to you over actually doing your job as governor in California." For all of his faults, Governor Schwarzenegger was on the ground day one on every single emergency in California, period. Newsom couldn't even show up and had to tell people, "Don't blame me." That's not leadership. No one would consider that leadership. Californians were rightfully upset about that. So he has been desperately trying to get out from underneath the Palisades criticism. That's why he was playing nice with Donald Trump so that he could get federal funds, so that it appeared that he cares about the fire. I predict all of that's not working. And he needs something now to get people to stop talking about how he screwed up on the Palisades fire thing. And so his point is, I'll have a podcast with conservatives and I'll start acting like Trump. See, I ordered state workers back just like Trump. I'm a big leader like Trump. And see, I too took a stance against transgender people just like Trump. And I too can talk to conservatives on my podcast. And I too can have my arm around them like we're buddies. That's not all. On his podcast, which he said was going to be, the volume's down lower. Okay, which he said was going to be about MAGA people. So he wanted to have a podcast where he was talking to MAGA people. He didn't say it was a podcast where he talked to general people, including some MAGA. It was focused on MAGA. So why are you announcing a podcast with MAGA people now after the Palisades fire? And why are you chummy with them when you've never done that in the last 4 years? Why now? And why are you doing these actions that are the total opposite of the way that you have behaved every single month of your governorship until about a month ago when the Palisades fire thing took off? So this is why people are asking the Newsom. There's the Newsom here all this time. And then in the last month, boom, I have a different stance on state employees. I have a different stance on transgender. I have a different stance on Charlie Kirk. I have a different stance on conservative issues. Maybe what happened was you really screwed up with the Palisades fire and your term for presidency or run is over and you're grasping at straws to get the media to change the subject to anything so that you can still retain that position. And you're willing to engage in things that 2/3 of Californians feel are disgusting. So the overwhelming majority of California does not like the way Trump runs things, does not like his stance on social issues, doesn't back him and is anathema to him and really does not like this man. And in that environment, as the leader of California, you said, I want to act more like Trump. So that's what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on. I gave you my estimate. It does seem a little bit weird that the guy's been acting one way for years, and then look at the Palisades fire. Look at his reaction. Look at how the media exploded against him. That's not going. Then that right after that, then he was sucking up to Trump, and the media like GV Wire was talking about why is he sucking up to Trump? And then right after that is now the podcast announced with MAGA people where he's saying, I actually share your opinion on transgender. And I too am ordering workers back to work just like Trump. So the pattern looks really close to something like, I really badly want to be president. That's most important to me. Damn, I screwed up on this Palisades thing. How can I make that go away? Oh, I can get a bunch of money for federal fire relief. Oh, that's not making it go away? Okay, well, let's do something really radical and challenging that's highly controversial, and everybody will talk about that. Trump orders all the workers back. Now Newsom orders all the workers back. Now Newsom backs transgender people being banned from girls' sports. New topics, new media. Now we can stop talking about the Palisades fire and how I screwed up on that so I can still be president. I don't have proof of that. I don't know. That's just my conjecture. What I can tell you is that the dates and the lineup and the consecutive nature of everything I told you is exactly what I presented. So he's been one man for multiple years. Watch how he reacted to the Palisades. Watch the public reaction to him then. Then you can watch how he reacted to Trump right after that. And then you can watch that the podcast was announced right after that. And then came the ordering the state workers back in the Trumpian fashion. And then came, I back you on transgender. So the timeline's very distinct. Now, who knows what he's thinking? Maybe in his heart, he's trying to bring America together and thinks, well, I'm a liberal governor. Maybe I can reach out to conservatives and I can be that presidential candidate that will heal America. That could be what he's trying to do, possibly. But like I was joking about here with some of the studio staff, if I'm governor of Texas, how much sense does it make for me to go on TV and say barbecue sucks and going to church on Sunday too? Should I really be governor of Texas? Should the people of Texas actually look at me as a governor when I take quintessential hardcore Texas values and I flip them on their head and say, that's what I think? No Texan would respect another person running them who doesn't back barbecue, football, and church on Sundays. My family's Tejano, that's the way. So why is it okay for us to respect a leader here who doesn't share opinion on how to run a state bureaucracy or how to treat transgender people? That's my question. So, hey, I get to have my own values. Great. That are totally out of line with the people that are supposed to be following my leadership. And the leader's the representation of the people. That makes no sense. So I'll leave it there. We're going to move on to another segment here.